In this example, we are going to explore different types of lists. These are a pretty important and very widely used part of HTML. They also have slightly cumbersome syntax. So let's make sure that we understand lists and how they are created in HTML. Let's start with a really simple example. Let's say we wanted to specify some of the candidates from the Republican Party in this current presidential cycle in the US. Let's say we wanted a list of these candidates. Specifically, there are 5 candidates that we'd want to include in our list, and their names appear on screen now. If we want the names of these candidates to appear in a nicely formatted way in an HTML page, we've got to make use of a list. Now this list could be bulleted or numbered. Let's start with a bulleted list. Let's say we'd like a list like that which appears on screen right now. The HTML for this is also on screen. It includes an opening and closing pair of elements called UL. UL stands for unordered list. It's used to signify the start and end of the list. Remember this again. UL stands for an unordered list, in other words, a bulleted list, and a UL element encloses within it all of the values that will comprise the list. Now, you may or may not know that the character for a bullet is just a Unicode character. In other words, you could create a list, a bulleted list, by explicitly including a certain character code in the body of your HTML. But you should never do this. You should always use the UL HTML element instead. Why is that? Because using the UL HTML element gives you the great advantage of being able to style your lists to control their appearance using a CSS. This goes back to the point that we were discussing when we spoke about quotes. Anytime that you can use an HTML element to specify some kind of formatting, do so. Doing so allows you greater granular control via cascading style sheets or CSS. In any case, the next important bit to remember about the unordered list is that each individual entry in that bulleted list needs to be enclosed within a pair of LI tags. LI stands for list item, and it represents one item in the list. Remember again, every element in your bulleted list should be wrapped in this LI tag. In other words, you'll have a whole bunch of opening and closing LI tags contained within the opening and closing UL tags. Again, we are seeking to create an unordered, i.e. a bulleted list. That's why we need a pair of opening and closing UL tags. Then within this pair of tags, we need a bunch of LI tags for each list element. UL stands for unordered list, LI stands for list item. The LI HTML elements are nested within the UL HTML element. Now let's say that we wanted a numbered list instead of a bulleted list. Instead of having the names of these candidates appear the way they do right now with bullets next to them, what if I'd like to reflect their current ranking in the polls? Would I then go ahead and append the words or the letters 1, 2, 3 and so on ahead of their names? No. Instead, I would just use an ordered list. Now, if UL was the tag for an unordered list, what do you think the tag is for an ordered list? Well, the answer is simple. It's OL. Again, remember to use the OL element and not just numbers when you want an ordered list. The correct way to get an ordered list is using the OL HTML element. Why? Well, there are 2 reasons. The first is, like we discussed before, you can control the look of each of your elements using a style sheet. And the second, maybe even more immediately relevant, is that HTML will keep track of these numbers for you. On the other hand, if you had explicitly added these numbers, each time the order of the candidates changed, you would need to go ahead and change all of their numbers. And that's really it. That's really the only difference between the OL and the UL elements. OL stands for ordered list and is used to hold a bunch of values where there is some inherent intrinsic ordering in the list. Other than that, the elements of the list are specified in exactly the same way by using the li tags, li standing for list element. And this aspect of an ordered list is identical to that of an unordered list. The li works with an ordered list just as easily as it does with an unordered list. Remember, however, that li stands for list element and so by definition needs to be inside a list. It never makes sense to use an li tag when it's not inside a ul or an ol tag. Folks do not use the ol element as often as they should. They often make the mistake of including the numbers manually inside their text. Again, that's a mistake. Doing so means that you own the numbering and you own the formatting. Just use the ol element and the browser will take care of ordering and numbering your elements as they should be. And here now is one little bit that's worth reiterating. I'm not sure whether you noticed this, even though we had commented on this briefly, but it's important to realize that the li tags are nested and appear inside, entirely within the ol or the ul element. Again, there are a whole bunch of li elements, all of which lie entirely inside the ol element. This is an excellent example of nesting of HTML elements. The list element is nested inside the ordered list element, which stands to reason. The ordered list itself is nested because it appears inside the body element, which in turn appears inside the HTML element. This natural ordering of all of the contents of the HTML actually should mirror the structure of the page. This is exactly the skeleton that we were talking about when we were discussing the HTML. The h2 tag is nested within the body element, and that's because the body defines all of the tags which appear within it. You, when you develop your HTML pages, should visualize the web page and then translate that visualization into a series of hierarchically nested tags. One tag is wrapped inside another. This lends a nice hierarchical structure to any HTML page, and this hierarchical structure is the foundation of JavaScripts working with the HTML.